connecting alerts to downstream automation is typically very hard in many platforms. In Coralogix, it's very, very easy, and we're going to explore a few different examples about how to get the most out of your remediation in AWS. So you'll see an example here that I've got, which is I have API gateway connecting to a Lambda function. Now, this Lambda function doesn't do anything; it just logs out the data that's sent to it, but this gives you an idea of how to connect up your infrastructure. So I've already made this because while this is an AWS-based tutorial, we're not going to explain all the ins and outs of Amazon Web Services. But you can see here that we have API gateway connecting to simple API gateway. So let's just assume all that downstream automation is in place. What we do is we can take this API endpoint here. So I'll just take that and copy it. You can see some things that I've set here. So I've set it to any method. Now, obviously, you would typically lock this down to be, post or that kind of thing. So what we'll do is we'll go over to Coralogix. I'm already in the webhooks, but you want to look for outbound webhooks. So going to outbound webhooks will break all these down for you. We're going to create a generic webhook. Generic webhooks will work with any API endpoint. Click Add New. You can see we have a webhook name. I'm going to call this API Gateway. Seems like a good name. And the URL. So I've just pasted that URL that I got from here into the dialog. I'll set it to post because it can be any method, but post seems good. You can see here that we can set some headers and things. So if you have any authorization tokens you want to pass, you can set all that up in here. You can actually customize the body as well. So all of this information that's going to come through, you can decide what will and won't be sent, which is really, really nice. If I click save, it won't test this endpoint, but if I click test and save, it will issue a query and my face is blocking it, but you can actually see that it will say tested successfully. And that indicates that communication between Coralogix and your API gateway is working. This is sometimes very important, especially if you're doing anything sophisticated network-wise. My API gateway is publicly available. I'll pick an alert, doesn't really matter which one. One that I know triggers a lot is this one. So I can select this alert and actually, and I can also specify notification rules as well and click done. And that webhook has automatically been added to the alert. So if I go to my alert management now, and I look for 300 MS, and we open up the configuration for it, we can see our API gateway webhook is in there. So what's this actually going to do? This means that whenever this alert triggers, it will actually send a request to this API gateway endpoint, which is then going to trigger the downstream Lambda. So let's have a look. We go back to our functionality. We go to the monitor tab for the Lambda function this is, and we can see right away, look at this, we can see spikes in activity are going on already. So what we can do is we can look at the CloudWatch logs. This Lambda will just log out the contents of the incoming event. And I'll pick the most recent one, which would be this one. Select this. And there's lots going on here, but you can see just an example. And this is the Lambda metadata that comes, and this is the full body of data that gets sent over. So it's just been stringified, but you can see just all of the information that's been collected in here. There's lots and lots you can do with this, including alerting on the actual values that triggered the alarm, the group by values, the time it triggered, why it triggered, what the description of the alarm is, and so on. So this really, really enables you to push into downstream automation. And by connecting through API Gateway, you get this really nice sort of vendor lock-in free integration, because obviously API Gateway, it's just a HTTP endpoint. This is a really powerful example of how you can use the Coralogix platform as not just as an observability platform, but as a router and as a piece of middleware that will connect to downstream automation that sits in your environment. So again, you're not locked in. It's all to do with making your observability data, maximizing that return on investment. So this is a really great example for anyone looking to do that automatic remediation, or indeed just to push to custom endpoints that you might want to abstract behind an API gateway, that kind of thing. So this will make auto remediation much, much easier.